Have you ever felt it? That profound exhaustion at the end of the day? Not from the work you did, but from the emotional labor of being constantly available. That hollow ache that settles in your bones after you've said yes for the 10th time when your soul was quietly, desperately screaming no. I understand that feeling, and I want to tell you, it is not a sign of weakness. It is not a flaw in your character. It is a message, a distress signal from the most misunderstood and most powerful part of you. Your exhaustion is a locked door, and for years you've been told to just ignore it, to paint it a brighter color, to hang a cheerful sign on it. But the great psychologist Carl Jung gave us a different path. He gave us a key. He taught us that behind that door of exhaustion lies your shadow. It is the invisible suitcase you've been carrying your entire life, filled with every part of yourself you were taught to hide. Your anger, your needs, your magnificent, world-changing power. The constant effort of keeping that suitcase sealed is what is draining the life from you. This is the beginning of shadow work, and this video is your invitation to finally stop guarding the door and gently turn the key. Not to become less kind, but to become whole. So let's go back to that key and the locked door of your exhaustion. Before we can understand what lies behind it, we must first understand the door itself. This exhaustion you feel, it is an invisible tax on your soul. It's the price you pay for a service you perform every single day without even realizing it. A service called emotional management. You have become an expert manager of everyone else's feelings. You scan the room for the slightest shift in mood. You anticipate needs before they are spoken. You absorb tension to keep the peace. You soften your words. You curve the edges of your truth, all to ensure that no one around you feels uncomfortable. This is not simple kindness. This is a state of high alert, a form of hypervigilance you learned long ago as a survival strategy. You learned that your safety, your acceptance, your worthiness depended on your ability to keep the waters around you calm, and you became brilliant at it. But this service has a profound hidden cost. Carl Jung spoke of something called psychic energy. It is your life force, your vitality, your creative fire. And every time you manage someone else's emotional state at the expense of your own, you are leaking that precious energy. It's a slow, steady drain, 1,000 tiny paper cuts to the soul, until one day you look up and wonder why you feel so empty. Let's talk about a woman we'll call Chloe. Maybe you'll recognize parts of yourself in her story. Chloe is a nurse, a great one. Empathetic, capable, always willing to help. Her boss approaches her at the end of a grueling 12-hour shift. The scent of antiseptic and weariness hangs in the air. "Chloe, I know you're about to leave, but we're short-staffed. Could you possibly stay a couple more hours?" The word yes is already forming on her lips. It's a reflex, automatic. It is the answer of the good nurse, the team player. But in her body, a different story is unfolding. A tightening in her chest, a silent, sinking feeling in her stomach, a flash of an image, her own kids waiting for her at home.
Her body is screaming a clear, powerful, undeniable no. But Chloe doesn't say no. She smiles, a tired but accommodating smile. Of course, she hears herself say. In that singly moment, a chasm opens up between her authentic self and the role she is playing. The role is what Carl Jung called the persona. The persona is the social mask we wear to navigate the world. The mask of the good mother, the competent employee, the easygoing friend. The persona isn't inherently bad. It is a necessary tool for social interaction. The problem arises, the exhaustion begins, when we forget that we are wearing a mask, when the mask fuses to our skin, when we start to believe that we are the good nurse and nothing else. We start serving the mask instead of our own soul. Think of it this way. Your persona is like a general you've sent out to represent your country in the world. But over time, you've given this general so much power, so much authority, that you've forgotten you are the one in charge. The general is now running the country, running your life, based on one single directive: maintain peace at all costs, avoid conflict, be liked. And to do that, the general must suppress any part of the population that might cause trouble. Any citizen who is angry, any citizen who is needy, any citizen who is selfish, any citizen who dares to say no. So, a civil war begins within you. A quiet, draining internal conflict. The persona on one side, constantly performing, managing, and pleasing, and your true, authentic self on the other, being silenced, exiled, and ignored. The energy it takes to maintain this internal war is immense. This is the root of your exhaustion. It's not the hours you work. It's the weight of the self-betrayal you carry with you into every interaction. It's the energy you spend policing your own truth. So pause here for a moment, with gentleness, with curiosity. Ask yourself, what mask have I been wearing for so long that I've forgotten it's even there? What is its name? The peacemaker? The strong one? The one who never complains? Just notice it, without judgment, because simply seeing the mask is the first step to remembering the face beneath it. And everything the mask pushes down, everything it exiles into the darkness to maintain its perfect facade, well, that has to go somewhere. It goes into your shadow. And that is where our journey takes us next.
So let's talk about this place called the shadow. The word itself sounds ominous, dark, forbidden. But I want you to set aside those preconceptions for a moment. Because Carl Jung did not see the shadow as something evil. He saw it simply as the unknown parts of ourselves. The shadow is the psychological container for everything we have disowned. Every feeling, every impulse, every desire that was deemed unacceptable by our family, our culture, or ourselves. Think back to when you were a child. Maybe you got angry and were told, nice girls don't get angry. So, into the shadow your anger went. Maybe you needed help and were told, don't be so needy. So, into the shadow your vulnerability went. Maybe you wanted to be the center of attention and were told, don't be selfish. So, into the shadow your ambition, your desire to be seen went. The shadow is not a monster waiting in the dark. The shadow is a frightened child, a collection of exiled parts of you huddled together in the basement of your psyche, holding on to the very life force you thought you had lost. Your anger is not a flaw. It is a boundary-setting energy. Your selfishness is not a sin, it is the sacred act of honoring your own needs. Your neediness is not a weakness, it is the capacity for deep, authentic connection. The things we banish to the shadow are often the very keys to our wholeness. And here is the crucial piece of this puzzle, the reason for your exhaustion. The shadow does not lie dormant. It is active, it is alive, and it wants to be seen. It takes an enormous, continuous expenditure of your psychic energy to keep these parts of yourself suppressed. It's like holding a beach ball underwater. You can do it for a while, but it's exhausting. And eventually your grip will slip and the ball will erupt to the surface with surprising force. This is why, after a long week of being accommodating and understanding and endlessly patient, you find yourself snapping at your partner over something as small as the way they loaded the dishwasher. That sudden, disproportionate burst of anger, that is not you losing control. That is your shadow finally breaking through the surface for a gasp of air. It's the beach ball erupting. It's the exiled part of you shouting, "I am still here." And this is the paradox of people-pleasing. In our desperate attempt to be seen as good and to avoid conflict, we create a powerful, volatile force within us that guarantees we will eventually act in ways that feel bad and create the very conflict we tried to avoid. The more you push the shadow down, the more violently it will demand your attention. It will show up in passive aggression, in inexplicable sadness, in chronic fatigue, in that feeling of being an imposter in your own life. This is not a punishment, it is an invitation. It is your soul's intelligent, persistent way of calling you back home to yourself. So let's return to Chloe, our nurse. After her shift, she drives home, the exhaustion a heavy cloak on her shoulders. She walks in the door, and the first thing she sees is a sink full of dishes. And she feels a surge of resentment so hot, so sharp, it surprises her. Her persona, the good mother, the patient wife, wants to swallow it down, to just clean the dishes, to not make a fuss. But today, after our conversation, something is different. She doesn't act. She just notices. She notices the heat in her chest. She notices the narrative in her head. I do everything around here. No one appreciates me. She recognizes this feeling, this resentment. And instead of pushing it away, she gives it a name. She whispers to herself, "This is my anger. This is the part of me that was not allowed to say no at work." In that moment of simple, non-judgmental awareness, the work begins. This is the heart of shadow work. It is not a dramatic battle. It is a quiet turning towards. It is the act of looking into the dark corners of your own inner house, and instead of running away, you light a candle. You don't have to fix your anger. You don't have to get rid of your selfishness. You don't have to agree with these parts of you. The first step of this profound journey is simply to acknowledge that they exist, to allow them to be there. Because when you do that, something miraculous happens. The civil war inside you begins to quiet down. The energy you were using to hold that beach ball underwater is returned to you. It is not an instant cure. It is a slow, steady, life-altering reclamation of your own power. So I invite you now to do the same. Think of an emotion you often try to push away. Irritation, jealousy, sadness. Don't try to change it. Don't analyze it. Just for a moment, can you let it be there? Can you feel where it lives in your body? Can you simply say to yourself, I see you. You are a part of me. This simple act of recognition is an act of profound self-compassion. It is the beginning of the end of your exhaustion. It is the first step towards integrating the shadow.
That simple practice of awareness, of seeing and naming what is happening inside you, is the foundation of everything. But I know the next question that arises in the mind. It's a question laced with fear. If I allow these shadow parts to exist, if I stop pushing them down, won't they take over? Won't I become a selfish, angry, terrible person? This is perhaps the greatest fear of the people-pleaser, the fear that beneath the mask of niceness lies a monster. I want to speak directly to that fear right now. The monster is not born from acknowledging your shadow. The monster is born from starving it. The most destructive, uncontrolled anger does not come from people who are in touch with their anger. It comes from those who have denied its existence their entire lives until it bursts forth like a dam breaking. The most painful selfishness does not come from those who honor their needs. It comes from those who have ignored their needs for so long that they become a ravenous, unmet hunger. Carl Jung's wisdom teaches us this. Integration is not indulgence. Shadow work is not about giving your anger free rein to destroy your relationships. It is about bringing your anger out of the basement and into the living room of your consciousness, where you can look at it, listen to it, understand what it is trying to protect. Anger is almost always a guardian. It is the part of you that rises up when a boundary has been crossed. By listening to it, you don't become an angrier person. You become a person with clearer, stronger boundaries. A person who no longer needs to explode because you have learned to say no with quiet, grounded strength. So how do we begin this process of listening? How do we turn this abstract idea of shadow work into a tangible practice? I want to offer you 2 simple yet profound journal prompts. This isn't about writing a perfect essay. It's about creating a safe space for your hidden self to speak, perhaps for the first time. So find a quiet moment, take a pen and paper, and here is your first prompt. When did I last say yes when every part of my body and soul wanted to say no? Don't just write about the event. Write about the feeling. Where did you feel it in your body? The tightness in the throat, the knot in the stomach. What was the fear that drove the yes? The fear of disappointing someone? The fear of being seen as difficult? The fear of conflict? Just write. Let the truth spill onto the page without judgment. This act of writing is an act of bearing witness to your own self-betrayal, and witnessing it is the first step to changing it. Now, for the second prompt, this one goes a little deeper. What is an emotion I am afraid to express? And what do I believe will happen if I do? Maybe it's anger, and you believe if you show it, people will leave you. Maybe it's sadness, and you believe if you show it, you will be seen as weak or a burden. Maybe it's joy, a full, unapologetic joy, and you believe if you show it, you will make others feel small or invite jealousy. Write down the fear. Look at it in black and white. The story you are telling yourself is the chain that keeps that part of you locked in the shadow. By simply writing it down, you bring the unconscious belief into the conscious light. And in the light, we can begin to question it. Is it really true? Is it absolutely 100% true that if you express your needs, you will be abandoned? Or is that an old story, a survival program from a childhood that is no longer your present reality? This is not a quick fix. This is the patient, courageous work of a lifetime. It is the journey of what Jung called individuation. the process of becoming an undivided individual, of stitching your persona and your shadow back together to become a whole cloth. The goal is not to eliminate the shadow. That is impossible and undesirable. A life without shadow has no depth, no texture, no humanity. The goal is to integrate it, to build a conscious, respectful relationship with these lost parts of yourself, to learn their wisdom, to reclaim their power. And when you do, the exhaustion begins to lift, because you are no longer spending your precious life force maintaining an internal war. You are no longer holding that beach ball underwater. You are simply you, whole, authentic, and possessed of a quiet, resilient strength that does not need to shout. A strength that comes not from pleasing everyone, but from being true to the one person who matters most, yourself. You deserve to prioritize yourself. You deserve to live a life that is not heavy with the weight of unspoken truths. This journey of shadow work is how you get there. It starts with a single question, a single moment of awareness, a single gentle turn toward the parts you left behind.
So we stand at a threshold. The door to your exhaustion is no longer an unknown terror. You have seen the key in your hand. You understand now that this profound weariness is not a life sentence. It is a symptom of a divided self, a self at war. We've learned today that the good person mask, your persona, while useful, can become a cage if it's the only thing you identify with. We've learned that everything this mask suppresses, your anger, your needs, your truth, doesn't vanish. It is gathered into your shadow. And we've learned that the immense energy it takes to keep this shadow hidden is the very source of your exhaustion. This understanding is power. It is the end of blaming yourself for being tired. It is the beginning of a new relationship with yourself, one based not on performance, but on presence, not on perfection, but on wholeness. The journey of shadow work, this path laid out by Carl Jung, is not about becoming a different person. It is about becoming more fully yourself. It is the courageous act of walking back into the rooms of your own soul that you abandoned long ago and turning on the lights. You will find parts of you that are messy. You will find anger. You will find grief. You will find shame. But you will also find your courage, your creativity, your untamed joy, your unwavering strength. Everything you admire in other people is waiting for you in your own shadow, ready to be reclaimed. Your anger is the seed of your boundaries. Your sadness is the well of your compassion. Your exhaustion is the compass pointing you back home. But as you begin this work, as you start to say a quiet no here, or state a small need there, you may notice something unsettling. You may notice that when you stop pleasing everyone, not everyone is pleased. You may even find yourself snapping, not just over the small things, but in ways that surprise you. This is a normal and critical part of the process. It's the system recalibrating. And understanding why this happens is the key to navigating it without losing your way. That is the journey we will embark on in our next video. Why you snap over small things, Carl Jung's hidden truth. I hope you will join me for that. For today, the work is simple. It is to hold this new awareness with you. Our conversation doesn't have to end here. This is a community of fellow travelers on this path. Your story has power. Your voice matters. In the comments below, I invite you to share one thing. Just one. What is one nice thing you did this week
that you now realize left you feeling drained. By naming it, you bring it into the light. By sharing it, you let someone else know they are not alone. This is how we heal, together. Thank you for trusting me with your time and with your journey. Remember to be gentle with yourself. This is deep work, and you have already begun.